So, a football based horror movie. I have never heard of that before, but after watching this movie, I can see why. So, Him is directed by Justin Tipping and stars Tyriq Withers and Marlon Wayans. When a young, successful athlete suffers a severe injury, he is invited to train with one of the greatest of all time, where he realizes the cost of greatness comes with a steep price. Now, a quick note, this movie is produced by Jordan Peele. He didn't write this, he didn't direct this, and I know this movie is being heavily marketed like he has some massive say in this film. He doesn't. The movie starts off, you have this quarterback played by Tyriq Withers. He gets hit on the head and suffers this traumatic brain injury. And from that point on, he gets invited to train with Marlon Wayans at his place for a week, where he's going to give him this football camp where he's going to kind of groom him to be his predecessor for the elite team he's on, the Saviors. Now, going into this film, I didn't have massive expectations for it, and I feel like by the end of the film, all of my worries and complaints of what this movie could possibly be as that hybrid started to come to fruition. I said, that's basically everything I feared it was going to be. And I knew it was going to be going into it, and I still was having a good time with it. That's why this is so frustrating. Now, this movie is very on the nose. It is at no point very subtle. This movie is clearly trying to tackle tribalism and toxic masculinity when it comes to passing down traditions. How far would you go to be great? What are you willing to sacrifice? Themes we've explored so many times before, but I don't know if we've ever tackled them in the context of football mixed with a horror movie. I was enjoying it. I'm a huge football nerd, so this is the perfect hybrid for me. NFL football with horror movies. They're basically my two biggest passions. Combining them should be a home run. Unfortunately, this movie is so on the nose, I just walked away feeling like it was a cornball fest that was written by movie nerds and people who had no association with football, which might work for some people if you don't have the attachment to football that I do, but the fact that I am so familiar with this terminology and the culture behind it and professional sports, that this is the depiction we get, just felt completely hammed up and it did not work for me. But what I enjoyed about this film, being the football nerd I am, I think a lot of this movie is right in my wheelhouse, talking about professional sports and, doing drills and what it means to be the best, all of that type of stuff. Really enjoyed it. I think the best parts of this film by far are the performances. Without these two, this movie would have been in the dirt, but these two give great performances, and for that reason, I think they're able to keep it afloat, at least for a while. Tyriq Withers both looks and acts the part as this professional quarterback. Sometimes when you have sports movies, the movie can get derailed immediately by who's cast. They'll pick this guy who can't throw a football at all, or he's just a sissy and he's playing this masculine character. But this is a guy who looks and feels like he could actually be a professional athlete because he's in great shape. He has good mechanics. He looks like somebody who actually played sports. And it feels weird to have to say that, but that is such an uncommon thing in Hollywood. So I have to point it out. I think he was a great casting for this, and I actually really enjoyed him, and I Know What You Did Last Summer as well. I think he was the best part of that film. And even better than him, I think the best part of this film is Marlon Wayans. Whatever you probably think about this guy going into the movies, pretty much what he delivers. I had a hard time going into this thinking this guy could play in a horror movie, but I think he's really good. He has that comedic edge to him, though, as well, much like the scary movies, which is important, and I think is the best part of this film, the comedic relief he offers, because he's just such a natural at delivering comedy, and once again he's doing it in this. So again, I really enjoy both of their performances, and I think they really keep this movie afloat for as long as they can before it just nosedives off a cliff unlike any other. Because to its core, this movie I would like to say is basically everything wrong with modern Hollywood, okay? They have an interesting concept. They're kind of soft landing the plane. You have brisk metaphors. We're all on board. And then this movie becomes so pretentious and up its ass that the final 20-30 minutes of this film, I don't think I've ever said or thought this about another movie before. I enjoyed this movie for the most part up until the third act. This movie might legitimately have the worst third act, like final 20-30 minutes of a movie I've ever seen, or like the last 20 years. The third act of this film is so fucking horrendously bad. It's like making me laugh, try to explain it to you guys, because when I was walking out of this, I just kept hearing people groaning and saying, I'm not smart enough to understand that. Like, what was that? This movie is so, purposely trying to be weird and just, it's so stupid. It's hard to explain. And that seems to be a theme whenever you have the name Jordan Peele attached to your film. I really enjoyed Get Out. I thought that movie was fantastic. One of the best horror movies the year it came out. But everything since then, it feels like if this guy has a name attached to it, the movie is so ridiculously pretentious and trying to be diverting of your expectations that it just loses the plot entirely. And Him is the most recent example of this because it has strong elements. I understand what it's trying to say, but this is the latest example of a bunch of movie nerd directors sitting around in Hollywood saying, yes, the movie works, but how could we possibly ruin it by trying to be super profound in the third act? Why, yes, they are enjoying the first 2/3 of the movie, but why not inject some racially motivated commentary, maybe preach to the audience about how wrong these people have it. Because as I said, at no point in the film is this movie subtle. This movie is very on the nose in the way it's comparing and contrasting religion and sacrifice to professional athletes and what it means to be great. So much so you have the team name the Saviors, much like, Christianity or whatever other religion you want to compare it to. You have people sacrificing for the greater good, our Savior, and comparing the dedication to the craft these professional athletes have to remain the greatest of all time, the dedication, the devotion, much like we dedicate and devote to religion. Football is a religion in this country. I get it all. It's very on the nose, as I've already said a couple of times. Also have some clear-cut comparisons to CTE here and the long-term effects towards athletes from the fact that our main character gets hit over the head and suffers traumatic brain injury. Throughout the movie, they make ample commentary on that. You'll have characters just straight up telling you through conversation about the effects of brain damage, stuff that's not very subtle. Once again, they wanted you to know when you walked away if you missed it. And once again, a couple of things I had to get over with this film, being a fan of professional football. This movie just felt so damn corny. Like, it was written by people who have no idea how professional athletes talk, like they don't actually follow the sport. Just the way they depicted that entire world just felt so cartoonish, which oddly enough made me suspend my disbelief maybe more than any other movie this year. This felt like one of the biggest cartoons I've seen this year, the way it all plays out. And then when you pair that with the fact this movie is trying to be a horror movie, about halfway through this film, I just had the conclusion. I feel like this movie would have been better as a drama because I feel like it was going down the path we all understood it was needing to go. And then they injected a couple of scenes, like a lot of these modern elevated horror movies, as I like to say. We have a couple of scenes that are completely out of place for the sake of horror that do not fit this movie tonally at all, because it's kind of a comedy, a dark comedy, and a drama and an exploration of, dedication. Then you just have these super odd and weird symbolic things related to horror in the movie that I don't think fit whatsoever. And those scenes stand out and are so bad, by the way. My theater was laughing at every single one of them. These are scenes meant to be suspenseful and, kind of dark, and my theater thought they were just straight comedy. So I don't know if that was the intention, but these scenes do not work and they stick out like a sore thumb. But the real buildup we've been working towards, I think the third act of this film is straight dog shit. Like, one of the worst ever, and it's mind-boggling sitting here trying to articulate this to you guys. Like, this is the biggest train wreck I have seen in ages. Clearly talking about satanic links when it comes to signing your contracts, such as signing your soul away to the devil. I get all of that, killing your masters, the owners of these football teams. The final scene, not to give it away explicitly, but that's basically directly related back to that. The end of this movie has a 1-minute open monologue that is entirely racially motivated, where it's talking about how professional athletes are just groomed for these racist owners who can sacrifice them. Then you have the wife of one of the athletes who straight up looks like a character from White Chicks. Her makeup is so over the top to prove a point of like the token white wife. The entire thing is just so stupid, as if there aren't professional athletes who are white as well, as if these athletes don't sign contracts that guarantee generational wealth for 200 years to come. So to the average working person, it's kind of hard to sell this as a sympathetic plea towards these people and the damage they're doing and the sacrifice they're doing. It seems so fucking tone deaf and disconnected from everyday society. But what else do you expect from Hollywood in 2025? That feels like the type of noble story they'd be telling, I guess. So yeah, the real sacrifice of this film was the first 2/3 of it, when the movie was actually kind of entertaining and unique, until it took the biggest fucking nosedive I've seen of the last 10 years. And I don't think I've ever said this before. I actually liked the first 2/3 of it. It was so bad towards the end. It ruined the entire movie, and for that reason, him is dog shit. Yeah, I don't know. I really hope we get to the point where we can just make a movie without sacrificing the entire integrity of the film for some stupid, half-cooked commentary. Feels like that's a thing in horror movies these days, and I really wish it would go away. So if you see the movie, come back, comment down below, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. It helps the channel. I will see you in the next review. Peace.